When I offered to help with their move, my daughter-in-law pulled me aside and said, "We don't need you here. Leave and don't come back." My son just watched as I slowly walked back to my car, my heart breaking with each step. I'm 63 years old. I've lived in Durham, North Carolina, my whole life. I raised my son alone after his father took off. I still remember the morning he left. My son, Matt, was eating cereal at the table, and his dad just walked out the front door with a duffel bag and didn't come back. I cried for 3 days straight, but then I got up and went back to work. I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Matt was 8. He was always a quiet kid. Smart, though. Thoughtful. He liked to line up his toy trucks in perfect rows. I worked days at the public library and cleaned offices at night. I couldn't always make it to every school event, but I was there when it mattered. Birthday parties, parent-teacher meetings, college applications. I gave him everything I had. He got into UNC Chapel Hill, and that was the proudest day of my life. I cried when we dropped him off. He hugged me tight and promised he wouldn't forget where he came from. That promise didn't last. He got a job at a startup in Charlotte. That's when he met Jessica. I only met her twice before they got engaged. Once at a dinner where she barely looked up from her phone, and once at a family cookout where she made some comment about my house being quaint. She never said much to me, didn't ask questions, always acted like she had better places to be. After they got engaged, I found out through Facebook. No call, no text, just a photo of the ring and the caption, "He finally asked." I tried not to take it personally. I called him and congratulated them. I told him I was proud of him. He said things were moving fast, that her parents were planning most of the wedding. I offered to help, and he told me not to worry about it, that they had it covered. I wasn't invited to the bridal shower. I wasn't asked to help with anything. At the wedding, I was seated way in the back. Her family filled the first 3 rows. They all wore matching colors. When I asked Matt later why I was seated so far, he said Jessica's mom had arranged the seating and didn't realize it'd be an issue. I should have walked away then, but I didn't. He's my son. I told myself to be patient, that maybe once they were settled things would change. Then, a few months ago, I got a text from him. "We're moving to Greensboro next Saturday. If you're free, you can swing by." That was it. No, we'd love your help. No, we'd appreciate it. Just a casual mention. But I thought maybe this was his way of reaching out. So I made a casserole, his favorite chicken and rice. I stopped by the store and got bottled water, paper towels, and some trash bags. I packed a few old moving blankets I had. I filled up the gas tank and drove the 2 hours with my back aching the whole way. When I got there, the driveway was already full. Her brother was there. A couple of her friends. They had rented a U-Haul. I parked down the street and walked up carrying the casserole. Matt gave me a quick hug. Didn't even say thanks for coming. He was clearly distracted. I asked what I could help with, and he pointed toward the garage and said, "Maybe see if anything still needs boxing up?" Then Jessica walked over. She didn't smile. She didn't say hello. She looked down at the casserole dish in my hands and said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" She pulled me aside, behind the garage, out of earshot. But not out of view. I saw Matt watching us. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "We don't need you here." I stared at her. "Excuse me?" She folded her arms. "This isn't your place. You showing up like this, it's not helpful. You weren't invited. And honestly, it's just uncomfortable." I blinked. "I'm just here to help. Matt told me I could come." She shook her head. "Matt didn't ask you. He said you could come. There's a difference." I looked over at Matt. He saw us. He knew. I expected him to come over, to say something, anything. He didn't move. She leaned in a little. "Leave. And don't come back." I felt my knees go weak. I looked at her, then back at my son. He just stood there. I didn't say another word. I turned, walked back to my car, set the casserole down on the sidewalk, sat behind the wheel, and waited for the tears to stop enough to drive. It took me 45 minutes to leave that curb. I haven't heard from him since. No call. No text.
No sorry, ma'am.
Nothing. But I'm not done. She may think she erased me from his life, but I raised that boy. I know what he's made of, and I know what she's hiding too. Because a woman that cold always has something to lose. I'm not going to scream or beg. I'm going to wait. And when the time is right, I'll remind both of them what happens when you spit on the person who sacrificed everything for you. This is just the start. After that day, I didn't reach out. I wanted to. Every part of me wanted to pick up the phone and demand to know what the hell he was thinking, standing there and letting her talk to me like that. But I didn't. I waited. I let the silence sit. If he wanted to be part of her world that badly, he could go live in it, without me. A month passed. Then 2. I heard nothing. But small-town life has its advantages. A friend of mine from church has a niece who works at the same firm Jessica does in Greensboro. I never asked her to spy, but word travels when you live long enough. And that's how I found out Jessica was pushing for a promotion. Word was, she was sleeping with the VP of sales.
No proof.
Just whispers. I filed it away. That's the thing about being written off. You stop being emotional and start paying attention. Then I started getting messages. Quiet ones. From Matt's old college friends. One of them, Marcus, sent me a message on Facebook. Hey, Mrs. Taylor. Don't know if you talk to Matt much these days, but you doing okay? That was a red flag. I replied, why? He said, I ran into him a couple weeks ago. He didn't look good.
Real thin.
Seemed kind of out of it. Wouldn't say much. That scared me more than anything. My son had always been steady, grounded.
But now?
He wasn't even returning texts from his best friends. I started digging. I found out they'd refinanced their house already. Less than 6 months after moving in. They were behind on credit cards. Jessica had opened several in her name and his. All maxed out. I also found out Jessica's old money wasn't so old anymore. Her father had lost a ton in some bad real estate investments. Their family name still opened doors, but the bank accounts were empty. She married my son thinking he'd be her ticket out. Instead, she dragged him into her mess. I wanted to help him. I really did, but he'd made his choice. He stood there and let her tell me to walk away. So that's what I did, until I saw the legal notice. I found it taped to my front door. It was from a law office. Jessica's name was on the header. She was filing a formal request for no contact, citing harassment. Said I'd shown up uninvited, had been causing emotional distress, and was interfering with their personal affairs. It was a lie, but it was a smart one. Because now, if I called or texted or showed up, even just to talk to my son, I could be arrested. And that told me one thing. Jessica was scared. She knew I'd seen too much. She wanted to legally shut me out before the truth came out. So I hired a lawyer. I didn't have the money, not really. I took out a small loan, cashed in an old savings bond my grandmother left me, and I started building a case of my own. I wasn't just going to take her down. I was going to make sure she couldn't ruin anyone else the way she ruined my son. My lawyer, Denise, was a tough woman. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, no patience for drama. She read the cease and desist letter Jessica had filed and said flat out, "This isn't about emotional distress. This is about control. She's trying to isolate your son." Denise told me to sit tight for now. Don't respond directly. Don't contact Matt. She said if we were going to fight this, we needed to do it smart. Then, 3 weeks later, I got a call. It was from Matt's old boss in Charlotte, a man named Greg. He said he'd been trying to get a hold of Matt for a while but hadn't heard from him. The last time they spoke, Matt had asked about coming back to the firm. He seemed desperate. Said he needed steady income again. But then he ghosted. That was strange. Matt loved that job. Then Greg said, "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but when Matt left, it wasn't his choice. Jessica had some kind of falling out with someone on the team. Made a big scene at a company event. Said the culture was toxic and she didn't want her husband working with those kinds of people." Next thing we knew, Matt put in his notice. I thanked him and hung up. Then I knew. Jessica wasn't just cutting me out. She was cutting everyone out. One by one. College friends. Coworkers, old mentors, anyone who reminded Matt of who he used to be. She isolated him, then buried him in debt, then accused me of harassment to keep the last door shut. And that's when I decided to flip the game. I started looking into her marketing firm. I knew someone, Tom, a guy who used to help me with website stuff for the library years ago. He now works in digital compliance. I asked if he could help me pull some public-facing data about her work. He said, sure, no big deal. What we found made my blood run cold. Jessica had been inflating campaign numbers, submitting forged reports about ad reach, click-throughs, and engagement stats. Basically, lying to clients about results. Nothing massive, but enough that if it came out, she'd be fired. Maybe worse. We documented everything. Quietly. Then I got another twist I didn't expect. A letter from Matt. Handwritten. No return address. It said, Mom, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix any of this. I feel like I'm underwater all the time. She watches everything. She checks my phone.
I'm scared.
I can't talk to you, but I never wanted things to go this way. Please just know that I miss you. I think about you every day. Love, Matt. It damn near broke me. That was the moment I stopped being angry at him. She had broken him down piece by piece. And now he was trapped. So no, I wasn't just doing this for me anymore. I was going to get my son out. And I was going to make sure she'd never do this to anyone else again. After I got Matt's letter, something shifted in me. I stopped thinking like a hurt mother and started thinking like a fighter. He was still in there, somewhere. Trapped, yes, but not gone. And now I had proof in writing that she was controlling him, checking his phone, isolating him. If this ever went to court, that letter would matter. But I didn't go to the police.
Not yet.
I knew how people like Jessica worked. She'd spin it. Say I forged it. Say Matt was mentally unwell and I was exploiting him. I had to be smarter than her. So I started pulling more threads. I met with Tom again, and we expanded our search into Jessica's client list. One company, a small boutique fitness brand, had posted glowing testimonials supposedly written by customers. But Tom found one of the names on a scam reporting site. Same name, same photo, linked to 3 fake reviews on different platforms. Jessica's company had faked them. That's not just unethical. It's fraud. I passed the file to Denise. She nodded slowly and said, keep going. Then came the next crack in the wall. Jessica's brother, Brad, got arrested for a DUI in Raleigh. Not newsworthy by itself, except Matt's name was listed as the emergency contact. That meant Jessica had to get involved. She bailed Brad out, and during the intake process, someone in the system flagged a discrepancy. Turns out Brad was using a car leased in Jessica's name, but paid for with a joint account Matt had no knowledge of. That was financial abuse. Denise's eyes lit up when I told her. That could be a game changer, she said. The trap was starting to close, but Jessica didn't know it yet. She still thought I was sitting quietly in Durham, licking my wounds. Then one morning I got a knock at my door. It was early, too early. I opened it and saw Matt. His face was thinner than I remembered.
Pale.
Eyes tired like he hadn't slept in days. He didn't say anything right away. Just stood there, hands in his pockets. Then he said, I only have 20 minutes. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table in silence until he finally said, she's watching everything. If she knew I was here, I said, she'd do what? He looked up at me. She'd tell people I'm unstable, that I need help. She already told her family that. I wanted to scream, but I stayed calm. I asked him what he wanted.
Why now?
He said, because I'm losing myself, and I don't know how to come back. I showed him the file, the inflated numbers, the fake testimonials, the joint account Brad was using. He looked at the papers, then back at me. You've been watching her? I said, no, Matt. I've been protecting you. He didn't cry. He just nodded, like something heavy had shifted inside him, like he was finally waking up. And then he said something I'll never forget. She said if I ever tried to leave her, she'd ruin you. That's when I knew exactly what kind of person Jessica really was. She wasn't just cruel. She was dangerous. So I made a decision that morning, quietly, carefully. If she wanted war, she was going to get it. And this time, I wasn't going to hold back. Matt stayed only 20 minutes that day. He left the same way he came, quiet, shoulders hunched, like a man walking back into a burning house. But I could see it in his eyes. Something had changed.
He knew now.
He saw her for what she was. That same week, Denise and I filed a quiet petition for a protective intervention. We had enough now. Financial records, fraud evidence, Matt's handwritten letter, proof of coercion and control. Denise said we should act before Jessica did something worse. Then I made the next move. I sent an anonymous tip with attached documents to Jessica's firm's ethics board, then to 2 of her biggest clients, then to the State Business Bureau. Each message included proof. Screenshots of the forged analytics, the fake testimonials, and the account she used for personal gain. The fallout was quick. She was suspended from her job within a week. 2 clients filed civil complaints for misrepresentation and breach of contract. Her firm launched a full internal audit. Then the real storm hit. Matt showed up on my doorstep again 2 weeks later with a duffel bag and a busted lip. Said she hit him during an argument after she found out about her job. Told him he ruined her life. When he said he was leaving, she slapped him and told him she'd make sure he died alone like his pathetic mother. He packed that night and drove straight to me. Denise filed an emergency restraining order the next morning. Matt signed a full statement. We added domestic abuse to the file. Now, it wasn't just financial and emotional control, it was physical too. Jessica didn't go down quietly. She tried to spin it to her family, saying Matt was mentally ill, that I was manipulating him. She even filed a counterclaim, but Denise buried it with documents and testimony. Matt's old friends came forward. One of Jessica's coworkers who suspected the fake reports gave a sworn statement. Even Brad, her own brother, cut ties with her once his DUI and financial abuse became part of a broader investigation. The court awarded Matt sole control of their joint finances. Jessica was forced to move out of the house. She lost her job, her reputation, and every last person who used to cover for her. And me? I didn't say a word to her. Not when she called me a year ago to tell me I was nothing. Not when she filed the no-contact order. Not when she stood behind Matt, arms crossed, while I walked away from that moving truck with my heart breaking. She got silence from me, and then she got everything else taken away. Matt's rebuilding now. Therapy, a new job, living in a small apartment in Winston-Salem. We talk every Sunday. He cooks now. Simple stuff, scrambled eggs, spaghetti, grilled cheese, but he says it helps him feel normal. He says he wishes he'd seen it all sooner. I tell him, I just wish he came back alive. As for me, I still live in my little duplex in Durham. Still work part-time at the library. But now there's peace in my house. Real peace. Because justice wasn't loud. It was quiet.
Cold.
Earned. And it started the moment I turned around and walked away from my son that day. Heartbreaking, yes, but eyes wide open. I don't regret a thing. Not anymore.